Hello everyone, my name is Burt Copeland and I am the founder of New Life CFO Services. I wanted to invite you to participate with us in a very special series that we think is a perfect fit for what everyone's going through right now. The series is called Succeeding in Seasons of Uncertainty. Who doesn't love a good alliteration? But anyways, are you reading the papers? Are you watching the news? And I'm not talking about those echo chamber news things that some of us get sucked into. I'm talking about real news. For me personally, I read the Wall Street Journal and I also read The Economist. One's right of center, one's left of center. Both are very good about what's going on in the United States and what's going on globally. So right now, we might be in a greater period of flux than perhaps during COVID, during the Great Recession, or during 9/11. This is one of the great seasons of uncertainty. I mean, my gosh, we have what's going on in the Middle East with Israel, Gaza, Iran, and Iraq. Really Iran more than Iraq right now. Certainly what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. And God knows that Putin has his grand plans, of which are only modestly disclosed, and that guy is not going to give up anytime soon. And of course, we have the trade wars going on and tariffs that have created all kinds of uncertainty. Now, I hope that this is all resolved in a couple of months, maybe September, in its negotiating ploy. But what if it's not? And even if most of it is solved within the next 3 to 6 months, the problem is still going to be China. That is likely going to be an extended trade war of one form or another. Now, with that said, you have the two biggest economies in the world that are rattling sabers at each other, not war sabers, but really trade sabers. So this is a very uncertain season that we are in. And the real question is how is it going to affect you? That's why we've created this series. And as we go through this series, there's several things that we really want to dive into. But right now, we all know that biggest gorilla in the room is what's going on with tariffs and trade. So as you look through here, when I say the words uncertainty, I want you to hear risk, right? Risk to the global economy, risk to the U.S. economy, risk to the changes that are going on within North America, and certainly, and for you and your people, your clients and your vendors, the risk to your business. Now, this is a big deal, right? And most of us don't know how to really plan for and adapt to this. So that's why we're doing this. As we go through here, with any season of change, any season of uncertainty, two things are true. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. The only question is which one are you going to be, and to what extent are you going to be a winner or a loser? As we go through our process here, I want you to make sure that you are not just becoming, too casual about saying, I think we're going to be okay. What we want to do is certainly take a deep dive into your company, right? Obviously, if all your product comes from China, you already know that you have a problem. But how about the rest of us? We could be 1, 2, or 3 degrees of separation away from some of that risk, but we aren't really sure how to measure how deep we're getting into that risk, how close we're getting to being in real trouble, and what is our visibility for looking at that trouble. And when I say visibility, it's not about the visibility of what's happening now. It's predictive visibility about what are key trends telling you about what your business will look in 3, 6, 9, or 12 months out. Do you have that kind of visibility? Do you have that ability to plan around that? If not, we definitely encourage you to participate in this series. Don't worry, you're not going to listen to me rattle on for hours on end because we're breaking it up into several smaller chunks, which is good for all of us, right? So none of us wants to hear that thing go on forever. But with visibility, the key things about visibility is awareness, right? You can anticipate what's going on, right? And then with that, you can start to quantify how big is this impact going to be to me and my company? And then from there, once you can ascertain how big is the impact or potential impact, you can start to build a plan, right? You can plan around these uncertainties. And I'm not saying this is a doom or gloom plan. I'm saying be prepared. It's a Boy Scout reference, right? But with a plan, you may not ever need the plan, right? Things may change between when you do your initial assessment and when that time frame comes around. But I will guarantee you, not planning is not good. Because the last time, or the worst time, that you want to be doing your planning is when the storm's already on you, right? By doing this planning and developing a system of visibility well in advance, you can start taking preemptive actions to conserve resources, build resources, have plenty of cushion for the impact that's coming, and possibly even develop a war chest so that you can go from safe defensive strategy into aggressive offensive strategies. So when we think about that, it's really your ability to leverage this season of uncertainty to your benefit. And I will guarantee you that if you take some of our advice and some of the methodologies that we're going to walk you through, you're going to be better prepared than anybody else in your industry, certainly within your local market. That's for darn sure. And when you're better prepared and you've built the resources, there are tremendous opportunities that can be taken advantage towards the middle or end of these cycles once you're in them. Who does that remind you of? Who is really very good about anticipating when big changes are coming and being very well prepared for it? One name comes to mind, right? Warren Buffett. He just recently did his stockholders meeting, and it's probably the most reported stockholders meeting in the world, right? The Oracle of Omaha. He's an extremely bright guy. But if you look at his history, he's also an extremely, a guy that has extreme visibility into situations and is very well prepared. For some of us, when you were battling through the Great Recession, you may remember what he did back then. At that point in time, he had a modest-sized war chest of billions of dollars, and he took $5 billion of that to bail out Bank of America. And he had such strength in that position or negotiation that he was almost guaranteed a 3x return, right? A 3x return, because he could negotiate pretty much anything he wanted because he had liquidity when everybody else didn't. But more importantly, he was prepared. He had a plan. He had visibility. Do you? We're going to help you get there. If you also look forward right now, talking about this season of uncertainty, what's Warren doing right now? Did you listen to parts of his presentation and his conversation about what's going on? The thing that I find interesting is Berkshire Hathaway now has $350 billion of cash, right? They can write a check for American Express right now. No ifs, no ands or buts. They don't have to borrow any money. So he's very well prepared for something. We don't know what that is. Is he prepared just because he thinks the market is way overvalued and he's pulled money out to extract that value and wait for another day? Or is he prepared again to attack and leverage like he did during the Great Recession? You know, for me, I'm going to say it's probably both, right? I'm going to scrape my chips off, and I think it was in December that he sold a boatload of stock to really boost that war chest. Probably because he saw what happened after the election. It's like, okay, this actually represents more uncertainty for him, and I'm sure it does for you. So with that, as we go through this series, I'm going to touch on some of the things that we really want to be prepared for. Again, with risk and changes always represents both harm and opportunity. So we're going to focus on that opportunity. And as we go through here, the real objective is at the end of this, we want you to go through this next season of uncertainty in Buffett style. I'm not going to coin that phrase, so don't worry. But what exactly does this mean, and what are we going to be doing as we go through this? keep in mind that for most entrepreneurs, one of the most important things that you keep in deal is not only the health of your business, but the health of your people in your business. So unless you want to be surprising your employees and blowing up a whole bunch of families because you gave them very little notice before you fired a whole bunch of them because you had to, then this is really what you need to be embracing. Because nobody wants to be the ugly person that just blows up a whole bunch of families. Because frankly, it's our fiduciary responsibility to take care of the people who are not in the boardroom. I certainly hope you embrace this same philosophy as we go through this. So here we go. Some of the major things that we're going to be looking at, and this is not in the exact sequence, but first and foremost, we're going to introduce you to some tools so that you can predict what's going to be happening with your company. It's a process that is developed by a company called ITR Economics. For those of you that are invested, you know this process very well. And I'll tell you, its predictive capabilities are unreal. Unreal. So we're going to be walking you through how that looks, what it tells you, and some of the actions that you should be considering about your business depending on what cycle that this key tool will tell you about your business. The most important thing is this is the first part where you're going to really gain great visibility about not what's happening right now, but what will likely be happening in your business 3, 6, 9, and 12 months. Because it's in that time that you get to start preparing to really mitigate the impact of that, to build your resources so that you can sail through more smoothly, or in fact to build a war chest in which you might be able to attack and do it Buffett style. Next, after that, what we're going to be doing is then diving into the specific risks of your company and helping you to understand where those risks really lie. Just as a simple concept, I want you to be thinking about not all revenues are created equally, right? Your revenues have a different risk profile. So we're going to be really peeling the onion back about what does your revenues tell you about how at risk your company is for any economic changes coming along. In fact, we may be recommending different levels of analysis to be done on your revenues. Once we're done with that, we're going to take that a little bit deeper and we're going to start looking at your margins. And what does that tell us about the risk profile of your business? Within the margin analysis, we're going to be talking about how fat are your margins, how rich are your margins, how sustainable are your margins, but how well can you execute to deliver those margins. So within that, you're going to walk away with really a risk matrix so that you can grade out your own risk profile about what things are vulnerable within your revenues and then within your margins and with your ability to achieve those margins. Now that's important not only to understand the risk of your business. Where it's going to become really important is to understand where you might need to change your business to protect yourself from the downside. And if within that plan of action, you will know what parts of your business you're going to change first, second, and third. Again, by changing early, you mitigate the impact of having to make massive changes when the storm is upon you. Hopefully that makes sense. But as the next step that we're going to look at is how strong is your company? That's both a concept of looking at your balance sheet, how much liquidity you have, what's the likelihood that your bank is going to step on you when things get tough. And we're also going to look at your cost structure, because your cost structure and managing your cost structure will become very important in how you change your company or mitigate that risk. So if you don't really understand your cost structure, I'll invite you to definitely participate in that module that we'll be going through. After that, we're going to really be touching into what are the critical metrics that you, your controller, your CFO, your C-suite should really be embracing to understand where you are. Some of it's going to be a continuation of the ITR tools that we're going to talk about first and foremost. Others are going to be measuring your break-even point, some of your liquidity measures, how much cash you really need or liquid resources you really need. And some of it might be, what is your borrowing capacity? Because, man, if you don't know your borrowing capacity or the constraints on your borrowing capacity, then you're going to have a problem talking to your bank. The most important thing when you're talking to your bank is know what you're talking about. because frequently bankers live in fear that they're going to be the one telling you about the bad news and that you don't even know it's upon you. So we're going to make sure that you're educated on that as well. And then lastly, as we start to wrap this up, we're going to make sure that you know how to implement these changes. So it's not a magic wand. And part of that is going to be developing key triggers along the way that says, hey, if we hit X, then we're going to do Y. Why is that important? I will guarantee you that you and your C-suite team can make better decisions before the stuff is on the fan than in the heat of the moment. And by that, just visualize the fact that you're starting to hit some, choppy waters, but y'all have agreed in advance that, hey, when we first hit choppy waters, we're going to do X. And X may just be, we're going to not hire anymore. We're going to let attrition take its place. We're not going to make any big CapEx decisions. Nothing rash, but you've decided in advance that this is going to happen as soon as when this happens, our action is going to be this. Because your ability to rationalize when the stuff is on the fan and people's emotions are high is real big. This will allow you to eliminate it. What it will also allow you to do is by being prepared and mitigating these things, when it comes to cutting time, if you have to cut, you're going to be cutting fewer people than you otherwise would have, because you're going to have the resources to survive more of the storm than you otherwise would have. And you're going to know what businesses to cut, where to cut, why to cut, and how to make those cuts, both in a humanistic point of view and a business return and readiness point of view. So with that, we're very excited about this. We hope you'll join us because we think it's going to be very important. And I look forward to seeing you on the first one when we start giving you some real visibility. Y'all take care, and thanks for your time.